Welcome! Here is how to properly file annual returns for your company. If you operate a public or private for-profit company or a company with shares, you are required to use Form 19A. If you operate a nonprofit organization, also referred to as a company without shares, you must use Form 19B to report on your directors and members. Submission of Form 19B should also be accompanied by an income and expenditure statement. Before completing either of these forms for your company, please check your records at the Companies Office of Jamaica to confirm the names and addresses of all officers, the shareholding information on existing charges, as well as the current address and contact details. The entries on your annual return must be consistent with our records for your document to be accepted. Let's start with some tips to avoid common errors on both Forms 19A and 19B. For your first annual return, ensure your start date is the date your company was incorporated and your end date no later than its anniversary date. For returns for the following years, your start date should be the date immediately following the date at Item 2.2 of your previous form, and your end date no later than the anniversary of the date at Item 2.2. Now, let's focus on Form 19A. If you are operating a company with shares, you must use Form 19A. Items 4 to 9 cover information on the company's shares. Item 7A must have the maximum amount of shares your company can issue, and Item 7C must have the maximum number in each class or type of shares, ordinary, preference, etc. Item 8A requires the details of the total shares that have been fully paid up, meaning your shareholders paid for all their shares. Item 8B, the cash shares fully paid up. And Item 8C, the non-cash shares fully paid up, shares that were paid for other than using money or cash. Item 9A must have the particulars of the total shares that have been partially paid up. This is where some payment has been received for the shares. Item 9B, the cash shares partially paid up, and Item 9C, the non-cash shares partially paid up. Welcome to the section for shareholders and directors. Item 10 is to be completed with the particulars of your individual shareholders. For Item 11, list the shareholders that are companies. Please continue then to complete Items 12A, 12B, 13A, and 13B. At the end of the annual return form, there are 4 certificates that must be signed by one of your company's directors and the company secretary. Only the certificates that apply to your company must be signed. Certificates A and B must be signed by all private companies and must not be signed by public companies. Certificate C must be signed by all private companies with more than 20 members where the excess consists of persons who are in the employment or formerly in the employment of the company. Certificate D must be signed by private companies without corporate shareholders and private companies with corporate shareholders who do not file accounts with the COJ. This certificate should not be signed by public companies. To properly complete and submit Form 19A, Item 15 must be signed by an officer of your company stating the date, their name, and their capacity. This declares all information in the form to be correct. Now, let's focus on Form 19B, which must be used for nonprofit organizations. Let's skip to Item 8B. Please ensure that the particulars of each director for the reported period is included. For Item 9B, particulars of the officer who is or was the company secretary during the reported period must also be included. For Item 10, please list all members that are individuals and provide all of their particulars. Item 11 should also include the particulars of all members that are companies. And Item 12 must be signed by an officer of your company stating the date, their name, and their capacity. This is to confirm the accuracy of the information included in the form. In addition to your annual return form, you must also submit beneficial ownership return forms. Public and private companies must submit beneficial ownership return form A with Form 19A, and nonprofits must submit beneficial ownership return form B with Form 19B. We hope this guide helps you with your annual returns. Please bookmark or save this video to revisit this information whenever you are preparing to file your returns.